General Alexander A. Vandegrift, commanding the Marine Force, had set H hour for exactly 9:10 a.m. Precisely at H hour, the bombardment was shifted to inland targets as the first wave hit the beaches. Moving forward rapidly, the Marines passed through the coastal palm groves and established a perimeter defense to protect the landing of later waves. In the meantime, artillery was being hauled ashore to provide ground support. The next day, the Japanese airfield was captured, and as Henderson Field became a turning point of the Pacific War, where both ground and air Marines halted Japanese aggression. The first Marine amphibious assault of the 20th century had achieved its mission. This mission was repeated on other beaches throughout the Pacific: New Georgia, Macon, Bougainville, then Tarawa, where the amphibious tractor, the product of Marine Corps planning, helped make it possible for the Marines to cross coral reefs in the face of fierce enemy fire and turn disaster into victory. Each island became a step closer to Tokyo, Cape Gloucester, Roy Namur, Saipan, Guam, and Tinian. The assault of Tinian, 3 miles southwest of Saipan, was the classic amphibious operation of all time, perfectly planned and executed. The Japanese on Tinian strengthened their defense against the landing, which obviously had to be made on the beaches at Tinian town. But the Marines did not intend to do the obvious. Both ground and aerial reconnaissance revealed that there were 2 beaches at the extreme northern end of the island, which were relatively undefended. One beach 60 yards wide, the other 160 yards wide. The Japanese commander, believing these beaches impossible for amphibious landing, strengthened his defenses in the south, while the Marines made careful plans to land in the north. To capitalize on this Japanese miscalculation, American bombardment was concentrated on the Tinian town area for several days. Naval bombardment and Navy and Marine Corps airstrikes ranged the length of Tinian, reducing enemy strong points. Napalm incendiary bombs were first introduced in these air attacks. These waves of fire were a new and terrifying weapon. 155 millimeter and 105 millimeter artillery pieces were positioned along the southern beaches of Saipan to provide covering fire for the assault. Lighter artillery pieces and anti-tank guns were loaded into amphibious vehicles to be moved from Saipan across the 3-mile channel to Tinian. The assault troops of the 4th Marine Division boarded LSTs and entered amphibious tractors deep in the holds of these ships while en route to the northern beaches of Tinian. To further confuse the enemy, the 2nd Marine Division was put into boats and ferried out to waiting transports at the south end of the island. These transports were to appear off Tinian town just before the actual landing at the north end of the island. Landing craft were to be loaded with troops and begin a fake run to the beach. This activity would cause the Japanese commander to commit his mobile reserve to the southern beaches. Meanwhile, the assault forces prepared to land on the northern beaches at 7:45 on the morning of July 24, 1944. When the order was given to land the landing force, everyone did his job and knew that the man beside him would do his. The assault regiments penetrated to 500 yards by 10 o'clock. 3 days later, the island was secured. This classic amphibious operation had been executed with perfection. Reconnaissance, planning, leadership, coordination, and training combined to guarantee victory. As the Navy and Marines went forward to Peleliu, the Marine concept of close air support of ground troops took on a new meaning. The 1st Marine Division held an airfield, but the Japanese held the far end. Marine pilots, in an ingenious action, took off, dropped their bombs at the end of the field, circled, and came back for more bombs and another round trip. Then there was Iwo Jima, where, as Admiral Nimitz said, uncommon valor was a common virtue. Then on to Okinawa, and victory in the Pacific. Congress, recognizing the need for a strengthened and more clearly defined defense structure after World War II, passed the National Security Act of 1947, which specifically gave the United States Marine Corps responsibility for amphibious doctrine and development for all armed forces, in addition to its customary role of a striking force in readiness. The Marine Corps met the challenge with a vigorous program of amphibious exercises to test improved weapons, like the recoilless rifle. They developed lightweight body armor. They tested the capabilities of new supporting equipment, such as mobile cranes, tramways, and boat recovery equipment. And at the center of all Marine Corps development, Quantico, Virginia, they began experiments with the helicopter, a possible way to lift men and equipment beyond enemy positions, adding a new dimension to amphibious assault. This advanced Marine thinking, planning, and training soon had a proving ground when in 1950, communist North Koreans attacked South Korea. The United States moved to support the United Nations in resisting aggression. And Marines, including the thousands in the Marine Corps Reserve, always ready to move, were among the first to go. To ease the pressure on the Pusan perimeter, Supreme Allied Commander in Korea, General Douglas MacArthur, decided to assault the enemy's flank at Incheon. This difficult task was given to General O.P. Smith, commanding the 1st Marine Division. The hazards of the Incheon landing were formidable. Geography was against the Marines. The harbor was protected by a fortified island connected to the mainland by a half-mile-long causeway. The island would have to be seized and neutralized before the main landing. The tides in the narrow channel, the only approach to Incheon, were among the highest in the world, averaging 29 feet. And finally, mud flats and a 12-foot seawall. Timing the assault was basic to the planning. And they did it, supported by naval gunfire. And precisely according to plan, the Marines seized the island fortress, crossed the mud flats, scaled the seawall, blasted access roads through the wall for resupply, and once again accomplished their mission. As fighting in Korea progressed, the Marines applied their versatile helicopters to many tasks: to deliver small forces to hilltop positions, bypassing fortifications, as aerial ambulances, delivering wounded directly from the battlefield to hospital ships offshore, as movers of batteries of rocket launchers into firing positions. After these launchers fired, the Marine helicopters lifted the rocket launchers away before the enemy could zero in. These Marine operations helped still the enemy guns in Korea. Back at Quantico, the Marine Corps studied ways of lifting entire landing forces to accomplish vertical envelopment of enemy positions. Another new concept. Based on vertical envelopment, it dictated a powerful two-pronged attack. One prong, a surface assault across the beach by the usual means, but at widely separated points. The other, vertical envelopment by assault troops in helicopters. Marine divisions were reduced from 21,000 to 19,000 men, with increased shock and firepower capability. In cooperation with the Navy, USS Thetis Bay was the first aircraft carrier completely converted to support helicopter-borne vertical envelopment operations. It has been joined in the fleet by two other proud Marine Corps support vessels, the Boxer and the Princeton. Another example of Navy Marine Corps teamwork. The demands of modern warfare are being met through the adoption of new weapons and equipment. The one-man helicopter, designed for combat use in reconnaissance, observation courier, and limited logistic support missions. The mechanical mule, a combat vehicle capable of carrying equipment, towing artillery weapons, transporting troops, or carrying wounded. The Cobra anti-tank missile, which is guided to its target by electronic signals. Above the ground forces, providing air protection and close support of advancing troops, are the Marine Corps' high-speed, high-performance jet aircraft, flown by Marines. The individual Marine is being rebuilt and modernized too, to acquire the additional skills necessary for modern warfare, such as parachute training for reconnaissance personnel, for underwater swimming, demolition work, and beach scouting at night from submarines. These training exercises sharpen the concepts and prove their worth. Marines are being lifted by helicopters from carriers 50 miles at sea in practice assaults, penetrating 50 miles into enemy territory and extending over a front of as much as 50 miles. The modern Marine Corps is a professional fighting force, determined that when, as in Lebanon, they are required within 24 hours to land to support American policy and protect American lives. When anywhere in the world the command is given, land the landing force, the United States Marines will obey and soon report, the Marines have landed and the situation is well in hand.